Hey horror fans, welcome back to Room 237. Coming at you with the last of the Wolfman series, the last film of the Wolfman series. And to be honest, it's a movie that I am confused as to why it's even in here. It's a film from 1946, and it is Werewolf of London, which everything about this movie kind of confuses me. For example, I mean, the tagline, "A woman whose hatred knows no bounds," knew no bounds. I guess the suitable only for motherfucker. Shit like that has to happen to me all the time. Suitable only for adults. How? I mean, and even the title, She-Wolf. Now, I understand that this movie was going for more of a film noir, crime, psychological thriller aspect instead of a straightforward monster movie. Even if that's the case, because here's the thing. It's a woman. She's a young graduate. She's set to be married. She comes from this rich family called the Allenby. The Allenbys. So her name's Phyllis Allenby. And comes from a long line of them. And supposedly there's the curse of the Allenbys. Whatever that means. And she, for whatever reason, is convinced that, because I guess she blacks out at night, she wakes up with mud on her slippers and her robe, and people go missing. Well, they don't go missing. They're found murdered. Their throats ripped. And even Scotland Yard is talking about, werewolves, and the dogs at her mansion are always barking and howling, especially at her. And it's pretty much her descent into madness. She's convinced she's a werewolf. And the thing about this movie is, I guess depending on which one you have, it ranges from like 58 to 61 minutes. The one I had was 61 minutes. So I mean, it is forgivably short, an hour long, but it feels longer. This is a slow movie. And this is coming from someone who likes character studies, okay? One of my favorite movies is Taxi Driver. I loved Joker. I know people don't like Joker because, the wallpaper was a different color, so now it's garbage and trash, because that's how jaded we've become as a movie audience. This isn't about Joker. But I'd rather talk about Joker than this film. The acting was there. Like, I didn't really see anything overly impressive with the acting. I mean, the role as Phyllis was June Lockhart, which is a name I've heard before. Dawn Porter plays Barry, her fiance. Sarah Hayden is her aunt. Jan Wiley is her cousin. And then Lloyd Corrigan and Dennis Hoey is the detective and inspector, respectively. And Eli Malian is Hannah the housekeeper. People I don't really know. But, and so like the one inspector, he keeps thinking it's a werewolf. He hears, he believes in werewolves. And it gets to the point where Phyllis, like, she doesn't want to leave the mansion. She doesn't want to see her fiance. And, you know, I think the first victim we hear about is a young boy, a child. And then it's the short, heavier set inspector or detective, whichever one he was. Their throats are ripped out, and, because of her behavior and with the murders happening in such proximity to the house, the fiance thinks maybe something is wrong with her. And there's always just conversations that just keep happening. Like, her and the fiance have multiple conversations about the wedding date. Her and the aunt have more than one conversation about, being well enough to see the fiance, or, am I going crazy, or is there really a curse of the Allenbys? It really feels like they're trying to stretch this movie out to an hour. At first, I was giving this movie credit because there wasn't a transformation scene. It was always implied, like it would fade to black, and then it'd come back, and it'd be morning, and she'd have mud all over her stuff. But then finally, there's a scene where we see a woman with, a robe with like a hood. We see her from behind. She's prowling around. That's when a detective gets killed. We never see a face of a werewolf, and at this point, it's like, okay. Because if you haven't figured it out, the aunt's kind of creepy. She's always telling her, like, oh, don't worry about this, or whatever with that. So the fact they're not showing the killer's face, it's like, either it's someone else, or, they really want to build the suspense in general, or they didn't have shit for werewolf makeup. And, you could kind of throw it all together at the end, which the revelation is the aunt and the cousin aren't even related. They want to drive Phyllis crazy so she can be sent, so she can be committed, and they can continue to live in the mansion. So the aunt's doing the killing. I guess it leaves it open to interpretation whether she is a werewolf and the curse of the Allenbys is there a line of werewolves. But if they're not related, then she wouldn't be a werewolf. And she's even stopped because she falls on her own knife. And yeah, I don't think there was a werewolf. I think it was just a cunning old woman trying to, ruin the life of this other woman so hers can be better. Maybe that's the tagline, her hatred knew no bounds. At first I thought, okay, they're not going the traditional route with, transformations and, the gothic look of, a movie like this. They're taking the psychological route. But then just even by the end of the movie, again, even if it's ambiguous, because I even Googled it, like, who was the werewolf? Was there a werewolf in She-Wolf of London? And I couldn't find any straight answers. So I'm guessing either it's an obvious no or it's ambiguous. But I'm saying, in my opinion, no, there's no fucking werewolf. in this movie at all. If anything, I would say She-Wolf, just because of how cunning she is and how ruthless she is to both, you know, screw with this woman's head and kill people. And also, I guess if you look at the victims, children and unimposing men, not to say women are weak, but, you know, someone, an older woman, could overpower. Not any person that a werewolf could kill. The only pro I could give this movie, I guess, would be the sets and the production. I mean, it looked like a good film, and the set design was nice. I like the look of the mansion and everything. But, you know, this movie has always been packaged with, you know, it would be... Actually, I think when this was released, it was on a double bill with, like, the Cat People, which has, like, a similar psychological kind of angle. But, like, DVD-wise, it's always been in, like, a double movie pack with Werewolf of London. It's been part of the Legacy Collection. It's still part of this, even with the Universal Monsters. Even though it's not a monster movie. You know, I could take She-Wolf in the title as part of, like, a metaphor, but not in the literal sense that you're going to put it with werewolf movies, even if characters believe that they're werewolves. This movie has a 17 on Rotten Tomatoes. Maybe it doesn't deserve that low. I mean, maybe it's just people like myself who were kind of disappointed, thinking they were going to get, like, a female werewolf movie. And no, it was just a psychological thriller with no werewolf whatsoever. But yeah, I was disappointed with this film. I can't really hate it because it's only an hour long. It's 61 minutes. It's not a waste of time, really. So, I can't really get pissed at it for that. But, yeah, it's not a must-see for werewolf fans or monster fans, or hell, even, like, this era horror movie fans, really. It's pretty skippable. But anyway, that's pretty much all I have for She-Wolf of London. So, thank you for watching.